Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello. And today is day 17 of our 30-day challenge. And today, being Sunday, I think today deserves to be a day of reflection. And Sundays are typically a day of reflection for me. So this coincides with that. And given that yesterday was a day of focus and meditation, I think it's important to understand the difference between focus and meditation and reflection, because they are related, but they aren't necessarily identical. You see, meditation is really about this going inward and being in a place where you're still enough to observe. You make observations and we become the observer. Reflection is more so about taking what you've observed and giving it meaning, interpreting it. So you can look at meditation as if you see the birds flying above, and meditation allows you to slow down and observe it. And then reflection is, what does this mean? Birds are circling over my head. Does this mean that I have a nest that's being built? So yes, meditation, it gives you the awareness of something, and reflection, it gives you more so, it creates the pathway to understanding. Also, one of the other differences, people tend to associate meditation with slowing down, emptying, calming the mind. I look at reflection as more so as organizing the mind, where meditation, it helps you see things. Reflection helps you organize and learn. So those are the differences that I see, because you can meditate every single day and never change, because you never really reflect on what you're meditating about, if that makes sense. And you can reflect also, think about those things, but never slow down enough to hear things and see things clearly. And that's why we got to do both. But today is going to focus on reflection. And yesterday we did the meditation. Meditation is when you sort of clear or clean the mirror. And now reflection is you can see and you can look into the mirror honestly and identify the spots that need to be cleaned. So the big thing that reflection will ask is, what is this showing me? And in our reflective time, we are able to connect the dots between our actions, our emotions, the outcomes, the habits, especially our belief. And I think reflection is one of the most powerful tools for transformation, because most people will go through life and will repeat certain experiences without even getting the lesson from it, without extracting the wisdom. And we live in cycles. We have the same relationships, the same money problems, the same triggers, the same distractions, the same fears. And I think because the experience itself doesn't create wisdom. Just because you went through a bad relationship or you failed in business, that doesn't create the wisdom. It's when you actually reflect on the experience that you give wisdom the opportunity to flourish and to grow. Because two people can go through the same exact thing, and one becomes bitter and the other one becomes wiser. And I think the difference is in gleaning and reflecting from that experience. So reflection is one of the ways, other than revelation, that will allow you to turn that painful situation into a teachable moment, into instruction. It allows you to turn the failure, it allows you to turn the delay into perspective, into feedback. And without reflection, life almost becomes mechanical. You wake up, you react, you consume, you work, you just move, you scroll, you sleep. But that reflection is almost like an interrupter. It interrupts the automatic living, and it forces you to ask questions, because when you begin to reflect on things, you ask why. And the biggest question is why. Why am I doing this? Why did I react that way? Why does this person, what they say, affect my ego? What did I do differently today? What can I do differently? What patterns keep repeating? That's one question we asked ourselves yesterday. What actually breaks my peace, and why? Does my life align with what I say? And it's so important. This reflective time that we have, it should happen every day. And the beauty of reflection is it can happen while you are driving. But I noticed that the best time for reflection is when there's clarity, when there's calm, in the morning, in the evenings, when you don't have the interruption. It doesn't take long. It can be a 5-minute reflective time. But I encourage everyone to make 5 minutes a day to reflect, to think, because your life is already giving you feedback. Your body, if you look at your body, all you got to do is look at your body. It gives you feedback. Your money gives you feedback. Your energy, all these things give you feedback. So reflection helps you read the feedback properly. And if you look at the Bible, reflection is everywhere, even if we don't always use that exact word. If you look at the Psalms, that's what David was doing throughout the Psalms, reflecting. Solomon kept on reflecting about human behavior in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. And Jesus often withdrew and went into solitude. What do you think he was doing? He was meditating for sure, but I think he was also reflecting at times. And the disciples, they kept on failing because they saw the miracles, but they didn't reflect deeply on what they meant. And I think one of the deepest verses in the Bible is, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And it's so easy to read that casually. But reflection says, what have I been thinking in my heart consistently, in my mind consistently? Not what I say to others, not what I post or type in the group chat, but what claim do I believe? What patterns keep showing up in my life, and what do they reveal about me? And it's kind of uncomfortable. Reflection can be uncomfortable because it removes the illusion. It removes the false identity that we claim, and it exposes our fears, our inconsistencies, our egos, our distractions, our misplaced priorities. But it also reveals growth. It also can reveal progress. It can reveal blessings. Sometimes when you reflect on things, how blessed you are, it allows a chance for gratitude. And so reflection, just sitting there and asking yourself the right questions, it leads to growth. And it also helps you stop drifting. Because, drift is dangerous because it's very subtle. That's why it's dangerous. It happens a little bit at a time. And nobody, destroys their life overnight. It happens little things that compound over time. And I think reflection is part of that. If you spend every day not reflecting on your habits, not checking your emotions, why did I get angry today? What part of me was affected by that? Those develop into unconscious patterns. And day 17 is really about reflection, because this part of the challenge is where we need to pause and ask, who have I been these last 16 days? Not just what have I done? Okay, we can check the boxes on what I've done, but who have I been? Have I been the same person from day one? Or have I slowly started to shift my identity? And that reflection is where our awareness starts to turn into direction. And one of the key points that affects our reflection is the relationship between our subconscious and our conscious mind. I've heard some people in the self-help community, personal development say that 95% of the brain is subconscious and 5% is conscious. And I'm sure those are not, I mean, it could be metaphorical. I don't know if they're literal. But I do believe that a large amount of what we process happens automatically and outside of our conscious awareness. Our brain is constantly regulating breath, processing emotions. Things are going on before we can even become aware. Things are happening. And because of this, there are things that you're not even aware of that you're responding to, reacting to, before you can even make a decision. And so there's research out there in cognitive behavior and cognitive science that says that most of what drives this behavior is below our conscious awareness. Our habits, our responses, our patterns. And this is one of the reasons why reflecting on our habits are powerful. Because if you look around, what affects you is different than what affects somebody else. And it's one of the reasons why trauma events that happened in your family, everybody got affected differently. And your conscious mind might say things like, I want to grow. I want to be better. I want to stop this addictive behavior. But if your conscious mind says that and your subconscious conditioning is now saying, hey, growth equals danger. Growth is unsafe. Money is stressful. Visibility means rejection. Discipline equals pain. Then you're in a fight because your subconscious is fighting with your conscious. So you have two opposing views. One is trying to protect you and one is trying to grow. And that's why it's hard to be changed with just information. Transformation doesn't happen with information alone. You need repetition. You need reinforcement. You need new experiences. You need to be constantly putting yourself in situations that allow you to grow through practice, through awareness, through shifting your environment. And this is what causes change. Repetition, repetition, repetition. And intensity, of course. If you are intense at a consistent level, yes. So what we struggle with, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, what we struggle with is not necessarily a lack of knowledge, but we're struggling with conditioned automatic patterns. And this is a completely different topic than what we're going to talk about today. But going back to reflection, it's important that we take time and reflect. And so let every day be a day that you find some time and reflect. Write down those key questions to ask yourself. I promise you, if you ask yourself these questions daily, your life will change.